If you get personally offended by this video, I need you to know that I didn't make it. My cat did, and you can't be mad at her. She's precious. Although she did just try and bite me for picking her up. But, well, that's exactly the kind of person who would make this video. Be mad at her. If you can. Here is every type of fantasy fan ranked from least to most evil. And yes, I stole this from a TikToker who talks about haircuts. I've divided this list into 13 types of fantasy fans. If you think I missed any, let me know in the comments and I'll make another video. The least evil kind of fantasy fan in existence, according to my cat, remember, are Terry Pratchett fans. I have never ever met a Discworld fan who is in any way toxic or mean or anything less than adorable. Discworld fans are lovely people, almost as lovely as Sir Terry himself was. Although he did seem like a pretty grumpy guy, but in a fun way. I'm grumpy too, I get it. And I think one of the reasons why this is the case is that the Discworld isn't just fantasy. In fact, is it even predominantly fantasy? The biggest and most important and most impressive thing about the Discworld is its satire. All of these books satirize different political and social themes. They reflect different elements of our world, our life, and very, very cleverly transfer them into an enormous, expansive fantasy world full of hilariously broken characters. And curiously, all of this means that Terry Pratchett fans could be enormously snobbish. It would be so easy to go, oh, you probably just didn't get the satire. But you don't meet people who are like that. Instead, people just laugh and joke about how clever and fun and hilarious every Discworld novel is. We revel in the joy and the hilarity of the Discworld. And for that reason, Terry Pratchett fans are the least evil fantasy fans in the whole wide world. Number 12 kind of surprised me, and it might surprise you too, because there is the possibility of toxicity here. Maybe this is something I've totally overlooked, but in my personal experience, one of the least evil groups of fantasy fans are grimdark fantasy fans. Grimdark as a genre began with Warhammer. The word grimdark comes from the catchphrase of Warhammer 40k, if catchphrase is the right word. Tagline? Whatever. Because Warhammer is set in a grim and dark world, although grimdark didn't begin with Warhammer. The first grimdark fantasy novel was probably Gormenghast. Grimdark fantasy is horrible. The works of Joe Abercrombie and Mark Lawrence, just to name a few. These books are nasty, dark, sad things, populated by horrible people, led by awful, immoral protagonists. But the people who write these books are often really, really lovely. They're usually men, and they're usually really nice men. The biggest and best example of grimdark is actually not a novel series, but a manga, Berserk, by the late, great Kentaro Miura, who was taken from us way, way too soon. And Miura was a lovely, lovely man. Guts is the great grimdark protagonist. And when it comes to the fans of all of this stuff, they usually reflect that niceness, that sweetness. It's kind of like metalheads. Metalheads are lovely people. They can get very, very elitist and snobby about different genres, and I count myself amongst them. My favourite genres of music in the whole world are death metal and black metal, but I hate thrash, I hate power metal, I hate those wishy-washy subgenres of boring nothingness, and I will fight you if you disagree. I won't. I promise I won't. But in my experience, my humble experience, grimdark fantasy fans are lovely, just like metalheads are lovely. The books are horrible, the authors are usually lovely, and the fans are lovely too. At number 11, with a slight capacity for evil, are queer fantasy fans, meaning fantasy fans who are queer and fans of queer fantasy. Now, so far, I count myself in all of these groups, and that's a trend. You might do as well, but you also might not. Some people love Terry Pratchett, but don't actually care for the fantasy genre. They just like the satire, so they're not all going to apply. Shut up. And especially here, there are going to be people who watch my channel who aren't queer. I know there are cis people out there who like my channel, and I keep my eye on you. Queer people have the capacity for evil. Just look at Yukio Mishima. Purely evil. Fascinating. Very gay. So there's a tinge of the evil to us, but queer fantasy fans are fun. Colourful, but also dark. And queer fantasy is some of the most creative fantasy that we have. The boundaries of every genre are pushed by innovators who come along to breathe new life into something that until then didn't have that life in it at all. Some genres have been gay for longer than others, like horror. Gothic fiction, horror fiction was queer from the start. Look at Frankenstein, look at Dracula. Everyone in Wuthering Heights is trans. But fantasy has been pretty straight for a long time. And now, over the last 10-15 years, we've had a huge injection of good queerness into the fantasy genre, and it has reignited that flame. Queer fantasy fans, queer fantasy writers, queer fantasy characters and stories, they are all good things, very good things, with a slight tinge of evil to them. From number 10 down to number 5, a lot of these people are not wholly good, they're not wholly evil, and some of them you could classify as a bit boring. And I think that's the case here. Number 10, fantasy exclusives. People who only read fantasy fiction. What's the matter? Are you scared? Did you grow up on fantasy and just cling on to that because, oh, what if the world outside is frightening? You basically live in a bunker. There's other stuff out there. What are you so afraid of? Now, I know fantasy stories are all about what else is out there, going on big adventures, saving the world. Fantasy fiction is some of the most creative fiction, devising entire worlds with entirely original political systems and histories and religions and magic systems, etc. Amazing. You could never get bored just reading fantasy. And I get that. I feel it. I love fantasy too, so much. It is currently the genre that I read the most. So you can argue that fantasy exclusives, they know that there's a wide world out there, and they explore that world through a million different stories. They explore a million different worlds through fantasy. But is it enough? What happens when you read something dark and think, oh, I like this dark fantasy. Maybe I should check out horror and gothic fiction. Just maybe. No? You're not going to? That's a shame. You're boring. Oh, you found a romantasy book that you enjoyed? Why don't you check out just a pure romance? No? You scared of what it's going to make you feel? You scared of feeling? Oh, baby boy, I know you're a boy. I know you are. It's okay. Let me hold your hand. I'm not going to hold it. It might be sticky. In fact, just don't touch me. Go away. Go away. Number 9's a weird one. Fanfic writers. I feel like people who love writing fanfic read a particular kind of fantasy. They often read the more popular stuff, and they read the stuff that has the greatest possibility for expansion through its characters and its world and its systems. Fanfic writers love loud, colourful characters that they can then latch onto and work into their own lurid fiction. Fanfic writers are not going to be attracted to the more subtle and politically nuanced fantasy stories. They want big, loud, brash characters that they can have fun writing their own private or public, creepy, horny weirdness about. I know you. I don't, okay, but my cat does. She made this. She'd be mad at her. I don't know anything about fanfiction. I genuinely don't. But my cat does, and this is what she says about you. She's so mean. Number 8, a slight overlap with the queer ones, the woke ones. Woke fantasy fans. Now, as a woke person myself, I know what I mean here. Woke fantasy fans are f***ing annoying. Oh, I can't read that. Oh, the author once said a bad thing on Twitter. Oh, cancel. Which is funny because I made 2 videos about cancel culture. Woke people are annoying. There's so much infighting on the left. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't say that. Oh, it's bad. Blah, 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 blah. I hate you now. We don't have any unity in the world of the woke. We're not united against one single thing that we hate, like they are, the horrible people. No, instead, we just fight amongst ourselves. It's annoying. So woke fantasy fans, they gatekeep things, or they tell you, oh, you shouldn't do that. I've got a friend that I don't like. I've got a lot of friends that I don't like. And one of my friends that I don't like once told me off for reading a book because the author was problematic. The author is trans and writes experimental stuff. And apparently she once said a thing that people got upset about on Twitter. And my friend told me, you shouldn't, that's bad. F*** off. Woke people. Annoying. Pretty evil. Mostly good. Definitely annoying. Number 7. What's more evil than a woke person, but not that evil. Brandon Sanderson fans. I'm pretty new to oh my god, it's so bright in here. I'm pretty new to Brandon Sanderson. I've read the Mistborn trilogy, and I've read Tess of the Emerald Sea, and they are all excellent fantasy books. Really, really great. I now get the hype around Brandon Sanderson. I get why everyone is obsessed with him. But I'm also aware, or at least I've been told, I haven't encountered them myself, but I've been told they exist, that the people who are truly obsessed with Sanderson are horribly toxic. If you badmouth Brandon Sanderson, they will find you and they will say angry words at you. Ow! You've got to watch out for Brandon Sanderson fans. There's a real toxicity in his fandom. A lot of elitism. A lot of pride. I think we need to calm down a bit. So Brandon Sanderson fans are moving into the evil. They still have great taste because it turns out his books are amazing. They're wonderful. I'm going to read them all. I think he's brilliant and I missed out on him for a long, long time and I've talked about that. But I've been told he's got some rubbish fans, although I admit I haven't really met any. No, I've had a few in the comments. I've had a few. Insufferable little creatures. Insufferable little gremlins. But as a Sanderson fan, albeit a very recent one, I get it. That was my belly. Did you hear that? I'm hungry. Number 6. Fantasy fans who make it their whole life. These are different from fantasy exclusives. I don't know what else they read, but they make fantasy their everything. They play D&D, both as players and as DMs. They know everything about D&D. They probably watch anime and read manga as well. They go LARPing. They don't know the difference between fantasy and reality. They are permanently in escapist mode. They never go outside. They never touch grass. They probably spend a decent amount of time on Reddit, on forums, on social media, burying themselves in little fandom communities and arguing with people who like the same things that they do. They're either reading a fantasy book, playing D&D, or arguing with strangers online about fantasy and D&D. They love playing Dark Souls as well. Absolutely love Dark Souls. And I am describing my partner. And that's why I love them. I'm also describing me when I was a teenager and me a little bit at the moment. Not the arguing online stuff. I'm not very online, despite the fact that this is my job. But I play a lot of Dark Souls. I got into D&D. I've been reading exclusively fantasy all year so far. This is me. And it's because the world is awful. It's so dark, and I still pay too much attention to it. So once again, this applies to me. It all applies to me, because look at me. Where am I? What am I doing? Number 5. I'll be honest, these people creep me out a little bit. Magic school people. People who love fantasy books that are set in magic schools. And I'm not talking about dark academia, because so much dark academia is dark and sinister and exciting. And most of my favorite dark academia books have adult protagonists, not teenagers. I'm talking about the magic school people. You know who I mean. And I don't just mean those books. We'll come to those books in a second. But people who grew up on those books and now, even as adults, are obsessed with fantasy novels as long as they're set in a magic school. I find these people weird. I used to have a girlfriend who was one of these people. And for our entire relationship, all I ever thought was, grow up. Or don't, I don't care. I mean, my cat doesn't care. She made the list. Number 4, I think, I've lost count. Magic system obsessives. Not a very catchy term. People who are obsessed with magic systems. Who get all up in arms when a magic system has some inconsistency to its logic. When it isn't quite thought through well enough. People who will enjoy a fantasy book or series just because the magic system is so impeccable. But where's the rest of it? These people would never touch a fantasy book that was primarily about character drama or politics. They're not going to touch Game of Thrones. These people need a magic system, and they need to go through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's interesting and intricate and consistent. These are the people that metagame D&D, and they are horribly toxic, terrifyingly boring, and they need to go outside. Literally, go outside, get away from me. Number 3, we're getting pretty evil now, but I'd say these people are more weird than evil. High fantasy purists. People who basically consider themselves scholars of Lord of the Rings. Like, shut up. Although I will say, I spend a lot of time on TikTok, and I see a lot of Lord of the Rings content, and they actually seem like really lovely people. All of the people that are obsessed with Lord of the Rings, all of the minutiae of Lord of the Rings, the people who've actually read the Silmarillion and enjoyed it, they actually seem like really, really nice people. They're clever, they're passionate, they're interesting, they're probably neurodiverse. They're my kind of people. But I don't trust them. I feel like they're gonna turn on me. I feel like something bad will happen if I ever meet one and get talking to them and then I turn my back. They seem nice. I'm not ready to trust them yet. Not yet. They're too into elves. This next group at number 2 aren't quite interesting enough to be number 1, but they are genuinely evil people, according to my cat. Harry Potter fans. You knew it was coming. Harry Potter fans. If you grew up on Harry Potter, that's great. Good for you. I didn't. I didn't read as a kid. Rolling aside, if you're still obsessed with Harry Potter, what house you're in, quoting the books, talking about all the magic and whatever, it's so sad. You sound like you're afraid to grow up. They're not very good books, and you're still obsessed with them. It's frightening. Don't come near me. I don't think you've been vaccinated against anything. Don't touch me. And then if we bring Rowling into the room, you're still reading these books. You're still spending money on Harry Potter related stuff in spite of this fucking thing. It's abhorrent. It's disgusting. Get vaccinated and fuck off. So if Harry Potter fans are number 2, what the hell is number 1? Well, obviously, it's straight girls who only read romantasy. What else would it be? Oh my... So I've read a whole bunch of romantic fantasy books over the past 6 months to try and understand the genre. As it turns out, the good ones are the gay ones. I have read precisely 2 romantasy books that I thought were good novels. Not groundbreaking, not incredible, revolutionary works of fantasy fiction, just decent romantic fantasy novels. That is the best you can get out of this genre. Is that they'll be good. Not even great, just good. Those 2 good books, by the way, are Feybound by Sara El-Arifi and The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. These are good books. That's it. They're just good. This is the most offensively boring thing I've ever read in my life. If you love this book, you have no personality. It's so boring. This is so bad it's good. I laughed at it, not with it. And these 2 books fail by every metric at being worthy works of literature. They are terrible, terrible, awful books. They should not exist. I don't care what you say. These are not worthy of existing. Straight girls who only read romantic fantasy are not to be trusted. And you know why? It's because romantasy is a toxic genre. These 2 in particular are propaganda designed to make you want to be a trad wife to a shit husband. That's what these books are. They are conservative propaganda. Straight girls who like romantic fantasy do not care about fantasy fiction. They are not romantic people. They're not even horny in a fun way. They definitely don't care for kink. They're very, very straight, like suspiciously too straight. And they are giving in to toxic, conservative propaganda. Romantasy, broadly speaking, is awful. There are some books that are like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 if I did ratings, but I hate ratings. They are fine. They are competently well written, and I enjoyed them well enough. That is the best that you can expect from the genre. Although I have heard that T. Kingfisher has written some romantasy, so maybe everything will change my mind when I finally read those, because T. Kingfisher is one of my favourite authors. She's amazing, and she writes very queer stuff. But broadly speaking, romantasy is a toxic, horrible genre full of conservative propaganda. And therefore, the straight white women who exclusively read these books are evil! At least according to my cat. I can't speak to this. This is all her, okay? Blame her. Blame her! This is her video. She wrote the script. I'm just quoting her. Now I have to go and feed her and throw away all my romantasy books. It's disgusting. So that's that. That's a thing I just did. Thank you so much to Mary Wollstonecraft, the cat, for writing this script. I really appreciate your work. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to support Mary and I on Patreon, you can do so. Thank you for your support. Don't touch that. Put it down. Look, if you're gonna pee on anything, let it be A Court of Thorns and Roses, okay? Subscribe for books.